Did you see it? This is a stroke and technique killer. And on top of that, it just looks awful when you do it. There's no need for that. It's a no-brainer. It's a no-go. You just don't do that. It's only hurting your stroke and your technique. I'm sure you saw it now. It's what the cue does after the contact with the cue ball. It goes up, it leaves the bridge hand, and it goes somewhere in the room. So imagine you're cleaning up your room, there's some stuff on the floor, you take it back, you put it in, but there's a hole in it, right? So some of the stuff is gonna fall out again. So you pick it up again, you put it in again, it's gonna fall out again. So what does this mean? You're gonna be frustrated because you're not gonna get anywhere. It's always gonna be a bit messy. So this is the same thing with this. If you work on your stroke, your cue delivery, your technique, you wanna get more consistent, you wanna get better, but you still keep doing this, it's gonna mess with the outcome. It's gonna create some mistakes and you're gonna be frustrated. So fix the problem, fix the hole, stop doing this. So let's talk a little bit about this topic, why people do that, what the risks are, and of course, how to change that. So what are the risks? So here's the cue ball and here comes the cue, and now it's a question of timing. So do you start moving up with the cue before you hit the cue ball? Is it right when you hit the cue ball, or is it after the contact? No idea probably, and sometimes it's gonna work out fine and sometimes you're gonna hit it wrong. So overall you can say you have no guarantee where you hit the cue ball and how you hit the cue ball. So most of the time the problem is actually the cue delivery, the stroke, the movement itself through the cue ball. So when you learned it, right, you learned that the movement comes out of your elbow and your wrist. That's how you stroke, right? So because of the elbow and the wrist, I'm capable of moving the cue in like a parallel line, okay? But sometimes players involve the shoulder as well. And that's where the problem starts, because the shoulder should not be part of this stroke movement. Because the shoulder can only do like this up and down movement now. So now you can see that the cue is like going up and down and up and down. When you play it with less speed, not as much power, then it's very often not a big issue yet. But as soon as you play shots with a lot of power, a lot of speed, extreme draw shots, the movement itself, of course, gets more extreme too. If your shoulder is not involved in the movement, there's only one more option, and that's your wrist. So if you are actually just stroking out of your elbow and your wrist, if I grab the cue and then flick my wrist upwards, then my cue also leaves the bridge hand, right? What can you do? First of all, try to figure out, is it a shoulder problem? Is it a wrist problem? So is it because of your cue delivery, of your stroke? If possible, work with a trainer and coach, because it's sometimes hard to see it for yourself or on yourself. Then try to figure out what are the type of shots where you do that. Is it just with draw shots? Is it just with shots where you need more power, or are you doing it all the time? Because then if it's only, for example, a draw shot, then you can really specifically work on the draw shots. It's safe to say that this issue only happens when you play with an open bridge hand, right? So in the beginning, if you know certain shots where you do that, it could help to play these shots with a closed bridge hand. So you're forced to keep your cue down. So that's a little helper, but of course eventually you should be able to play with an open bridge hand too. One thing that you should pay attention to is your cue delivery, right? The stroke movement through the cue ball. For example, you can just set up any kind of standard basic shot, and then you really focus on a straight cue delivery through the cue ball, and then keeping on staying down with the cue, you know, like really focus on this. Little like overdoing it a little bit, you know, make it a bit more extreme that you would actually do it. It's just for your brain to like really understand what you're working on. They're like, all right, I see, I get your point. This is what we need to do now. And one little helper, especially in the beginning when you start working on that issue, is that you put a bridge from one rail to the other rail. So you set up a straight shot, normal standard basic shot. You put the bridge over it. So your cue now, your shaft is underneath that bridge. And now this bridge kind of forces you to keep or to stay down with your cue. It's a bit a funny drill because of the bridge, it might mess a little bit with your aiming, so it's kind of might be a little bit in the way, but it's just in the beginning when you start working on this issue. This is just a little helper to visualize that a little bit. Right, people, that's it with this video. Very important topic. Until my next video, have fun practicing, and as usual, I talk to you soon.